And good evening, Thunder Wizards. So, we're going to talk more about the runes again. Yesterday we talked about the first 8 of the runes, which corresponds with physical reality and physical mastery. As I said yesterday, it is my belief that the runes are an ancient oral tradition that existed before the advent of writing, and I won't go on and on about it, but as I said yesterday, academia says that the runes are simply the alphabet of the Germanic tribes that they created in order to mimic the civilized Mediterranean civilizations, and I've already talked about why I think that's ridiculous. But I do believe that the runes themselves were an oral tradition even before there were symbols that were attached to them. It was taught, I believe, from father to son, to teach the son how to survive and how to provide. And the first 8 deal primarily, all of the runes are spiritual in nature, so it's not that they only deal with this, but they deal primarily with the physical realm and gaining mastery of the physical realm. Once you have mastery of the physical realm, then we need to learn how to master the mental and emotional, the psychological realm. And these are the runes that we're going to be dealing with today. And what you will notice is that in this second 8 is all of the challenging runes. Now, any of the runes can be challenging, especially if you've got one that is Merkstave, meaning it's flipped upside down. But there are some that can't be flipped that are seen as challenging. So, excuse me, I'm having some allergies or something. I'm allergic to winter. So we'll talk about some of the runes that are seen as challenging. Before we do that, I just want to state that there is no such thing as a challenging rune, like a bad rune. There's no such thing. And of course, you pick up you go online and you type in any rune, like Nauthiz, for instance. Type in Nauthiz, you're going to get all kinds of stuff about stop, don't go, danger, all this kind of stuff. And it's because people are human beings, and human beings tend to be, in my experience anyway, maybe this is my hubris coming out, they tend to be fairly superficial, and they don't look into things very deeply. But the runes are about transformation. So there's never a rune that is about stop, don't go. I mean, let's see, do I have them here? I mean, I've done this before where I pulled out, I have a rune deck from someplace else. Now the rune deck I use is from Mark Graham. Where's his? Let me go get his. Mark Graham is one of my apprentices, and he has come up with his own rune deck. I don't have the box here, but this is what the outside of them looks like. But if you pick up your average rune deck or whatever, it's just crazy the stuff that they come up with. It's just verbal diarrhea. It's just they're just making word associations. And so you can have like a whole list of a meaning of a rune, and they just go all over the place, and they contradict themselves and they're trying to sound cute, Like I forget which one it was, but it was something like "Don't count your chickens before they're hatched," and it had nothing to do with the rune. It's just So that's what you get with most rune books as well. They're really not going off of what the runes are. So let's talk about what they are. Forget about the meaning and the significance. They are syllables. They are syllables. And the names that we give to the syllables are Germanic, in some cases, Proto-Germanic words. So if you want to know what the meaning of the rune is, you have to know what the word means. So, for instance, Nauthij, you have to know what that word means to know what the rune actually is. We've got the rune poems, people go by that, but even the rune poems contradict each other. You have different rune poems out there that contradict each other. So, people treat those like scripture. They worship the rune poems. I appreciate the rune poems, but as you can see, I don't really ever mention them. It's because I don't see them as being, I don't see them as being the inerrant word of Odin. They're not. They're people's, things that people did in order to remember them. So, for instance, Nauthij. In order to understand Nauthij and what the rune is, we have to know what the word means. Nauthij. Nauthij is the ancient Germanic word, but we know of it as not. Not is a word that we still have. It's almost never used, but it is a word that we still have. So in order to know what not means, the superficial understanding of not is a negative, right? But to understand what not means, we have to look into the meaning of it in an original context. And not is made up of two words, na and white. Na, white, means no or empty, and white is spirit or energy. Na, white. Na, white, not. Naucht, not. That is the Nauthij rune. If you don't know that, then you're not going to really get the meaning of what Nauthij is. People look at the symbol of this and they think, ooh, it means stop, bad. They look at the rune poem where it says it creates a constriction. So they think, ooh, it constricts. But it's not. You look at na white, there's one word for it that I think is extremely important, or one phrase, which is need fire. Need, N-E-E-D, fire. I guess I should write that down. It's called need fire. What is that? What does that mean, need fire? Well, it tells us how fire was created or discovered, how to create your own fire for humans. It was out of need. We didn't, without the need, listen, here's the thing about humans. Humans don't do anything unless they absolutely have to. That's just the way we're built. So the need to create fire must have been extremely important. I'm about to sneeze, excuse me. Especially for Ice Age Europeans, because it was cold. So there's no mystery why the need fire rune is in the in the Futhark. So I was going to, where is it? Looking for my little need fire. So get the need rune in your mind. For that, let's take a look at the Elder Futhark. It's the second rune of the second 8, and I'm just using it as an example to whatever. So take a look at that, the second rune of the second 8. Need fire. What does it look like? It looks like this. What does this look like? 2 sticks rubbing together. I haven't talked about this in a long time, but we have a phrase in English. I think we use it pretty much everywhere English is spoken. But I believe this is a really, really, really old phrase. And there's a physical movement that goes with it. And when a child especially has done something forbidden, we make this noise and we go like this. And we say, naughty, naughty, naughty. We do this. What is that? It's this. Two sticks rubbing together. That's what it sounds like when you're trying to scrape and make a spark. I mean, if you can come up with another reason why we do that, I'm all ears. But I think those words and that phrase and this movement all goes back to a very, very ancient, magical ritual that you would do if you wanted to change something. Because when a little kid does something he's not supposed to do, and we mean like something he's really not supposed to do, and somebody says naughty, 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 right? Because that's, when you say it to a little 3-year-old, you're saying it with a lot of intensity. Naughty, naughty, naughty. Now white. You're not telling him he's a bad person. What you're doing is you're doing a magical act to transform him. Because this is what the Now These rune does. The Now These rune takes your need, your emptiness. In the case of fire, now white, no energy. Here we're talking, there's no heat. And in that state, the person comes up with whatever, imagine all the things they must have tried to do to create fire. You bang 2 rocks together, create a spark. Who knows what they might have done. They settled on rubbing 2 sticks together. It's really not rubbing 2 sticks together. It's putting a stick in a thing and, rotating it really fast. But it looks like the need root. And it represents the transformation that comes with innovation. When whoever it was that was able to use those 2 sticks to create fire, as long as he had his 2 sticks and his twine to create the fire, as long as he had that, it didn't matter where he was, maybe a little bit of dried grass or moss, which he probably carried with him in a pouch. There's the designated driver, there's a designated fire starter, and he carried this around in his pouch. When he created that, he transformed human life. So the Now These rune is not stop, bad, constriction. The constriction forces you to innovate, to invent, and to create something absolutely, earth-shatteringly transformative. So this is the example I'm saying. There's no such thing as a bad rune. There's no such thing as a warning rune. You have a challenging experience, but when you're stuck and you chant the Now These rune, guess what's going to happen? You will first of all become conscious of that. You will become fully conscious of it. So you may feel worse after chanting that rune. You may feel constricted. But that constriction is forcing you to then think outside of the box so that then you can come up with an idea that has never been thought of before, at least by you. And when you take action on that completely different out-of-the-box idea, it's going to open up the whole universe the same way that the discovery of creating fire opened up technology for us. I mean, fire, you know, everything in our technology runs on fire of some kind. Okay? So there's that's the idea. I just wanted to say that, you know, please get out of your mind the idea there are things as bad runes, because we are going to be talking about them tonight in this second date. So let's go back to the little picture here, and we'll look at the second row, which is the second date, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Compare them to the runes in the first and the third eight. You'll see that in the first and the third eight, there aren't any bad runes. They're only in this second eight where you see the really challenging transformational runes. So you see what I'm talking about? All of them except for Yera and Elhaj. It's written as Algiz, but I prefer Elhaj because it's the elk rune, and that's the word, elk, Elhaj. We don't use the nominative case ending of AZ anymore. We don't use case endings, so it's just Elch, which is pronounced now elk, Elhaj. Let's go through them, shall we? So the first rune is Hagalaj. Hagel. The G sound in Anglo-Saxon as opposed to Old Norse. Old Norse tend to make hard G sounds, whereas the Anglo-Saxon turned them into Y sounds. So that's why we have the word hail. We don't say hagel, hagelstone. We say hailstone. Hayal, hayal. That's where the same word hail comes from, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Forgive me. I'm not in that camp. Forgive me. The Hayal rune, and so we've got Hagalaj, which is seen as one of those danger runes. Ooh, danger! Hailstones coming down, but they're not. Hayal is the energy of self-transformation. The way I like to call it is voluntary self-transformation. There is another rune of transformation which is not voluntary, it's involuntary, and that's Yuhwaj, which we'll get to. It's also in this one here. Yuhwaj. Again, Yuhwaj is spelled E-I. And so people pronounce it Awaj. It's not Awaj. We just no longer have the letter, which is what the Yuhwaj rune is. We no longer have the letter for the U sound. So I believe that it's Yuhwaj. And I pronounce it Yuhwaj because it's the yew tree. It's where that word comes from. Originally, U was pronounced U. Yuhwaj. Anyway, we'll get to that. So Hagalaj is the rune of voluntary self-transformation. It is a rune of cleansing. So it's talking about the hail, and people focus on the hailstones, and hailstones are destructive. When it's hailing, you want to get the hell out of the way. But it represents all kinds of water that comes from the sky. It represents rain, it represents snow, sleet, and hail. And without the rain and the snow, we wouldn't have the cleansing waters that come down off of the mountain and create the rivers. We wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have access to the life force energy of water. But as you know, in springtime, when the snows melt, it's a cleansing as well. So if you ever use, those little alcohol dispensers, whatever the hell you call that stuff, where you wash your hands with that rubbing alcohol, and you think you're cleaning your hands, guess what? You're not. It's true that alcohol kills bacteria, but studies have been shown that if you're going to use an rubbing alcohol-based thing to wash your hands, you have to use a lot of it, and it has to flow like water. In other words, you're better off just washing your hands under water. Just taking a couple drops of that, whatever the hell they call that, will not sanitize your hands. The sanitizer, it doesn't do anything. It's the water that does it, and putting your hands under flowing water. We use soap, but the truth is that soap, what it does is it helps dislodge dirt. It doesn't really clean. It doesn't sanitize. What sanitizes is the water. So just putting your hands under, enough fast-flowing water to get whatever's on your hands off will sanitize you. And so this is hagalaj. It's sanitizing. And it's just like when you wash your hands, you are choosing to wash your hands. It's a voluntary thing. So when applied to the second 8 principle that I'm talking about here, which is mental and emotional transformation, mental and emotional psychological empowerment, this is the rune where the individual says, I want to take a look at myself, and I want to improve myself. And I realize I have this one problem, and I have a tendency to do this, and I really want to work on that. This is why it's healing, because you got a cut and you got a bunch of dirt in your, the cut on your finger. The first thing you want to do is stick it under a faucet and let the water clean out the wound, so that the wound can then heal. This is the healing aspect of hagalaj, self-transformation. So this can be challenging, but it's relatively easy because you are choosing. You're putting the Bactine on there and you're doing whatever, and it's painful, but you are choosing to do that in order to heal yourself. So whenever we choose to do something, we feel like we have control, and it doesn't feel as challenging because it's a choice that we've made. So this is voluntary self-transformation. And then Nauthiz, which we've already talked about. Nauthiz is the rune of innovation, and like explosive innovation. The invention of the wheel, the discovery of fire. I mean, when we talk about innovation, these are the first examples we talk about. So we've already talked about Nauthiz. But this is a transformative, it's a challenging experience. But when we have the discipline to follow through with that and the motivation to follow through with that, then we are empowered significantly. So the next rune, the next rune that is one of the most misunderstood runes as well, is Isa, the third rune in the second 8. Isa. Now this is another one I find really quite funny when I read, your typical, like on the, not on Mark's, but on the other rune. Do I have it right here? I think I have it. No. Wait, I do have the box for Mark's runes. Let me bring those out. Come here. Okay. So here, by the way, is Mark Graham's rune set, Runes for Writers. I don't know if you can see the website on there. No, there is no website on it. I don't know if there is a website on this. Anyway, you can look it up. I'm sure if you Google it, you should be able to find it. Runes for Writers. But it's a great rune set. But I was going to make fun of this rune set right here. And I don't have runes in here. I have actual little rune things that I've painted. But this, I used this for years because they give you two. One of them has all of their ridiculous rune interpretations. And then there's one that just has the runes with no interpretations. And that's why I bought them. But Isa is one. You know, Isa means ice. But if you look at the shape of Isa, it's not talking about ice. It's talking about an icicle. The shape of an icicle. And it represents the singularity of that. There are some other things that I think are really cool about icicles in that, you know, that the idea of being transparent. You know, the Isa, the self, being transparent. And this is, you know, one of the ways, you know, that somebody has an empowered sense of self is that they don't have anything to hide. They don't have anything to prove. They don't have anything to hide. They don't have a problem promoting themselves, defending their individuality and promoting their individuality. So Isa, even though the word means ice, it's representative of the self. And the syllable E is, I mean, you know, in modern times, especially when we mean the self, we write that I. We do stupid things with vowels in English, and I is not how Isa is pronounced. It's pronounced E. But, you know, ich, I, ek, I. We're still connected to that sound of E, Isa, the self. E, by the way, is an interesting sound. And I'll put it in the English way. We talk about it like this, even though we're talking about this letter. E is the sound of Shakti. It is the seed sound is not the complete seed sound. It's the sound itself of Shakti. So when you chant E, it goes through the central channel in your body, and it promotes identity of self. So when you chant Isa, literally when you say Isa, you are saying the truth, Sat, of the E, the self, the individual, the ego, the identity. I'm being creative with sounds. I'm not trying to say that they came from it. Anyway. So, Isa, one of the things I find ridiculous, I couldn't find it in there, but in the one rune deck, you know, all of the word associations that come from ice, and they go on and on about all these things about ice, and I'm like, that has nothing whatsoever to do with the rune and what the rune means. So that's Isa. You know, and the reason why Isa cannot be reversed is because there is no such thing as a blocked sense of self. You either have it or you don't. You either have security in yourself or you don't. So it's not like, you know, otherwise it would be reversed. So a lot of times when Isa comes up, people see it as, ooh, ego, watch out for too much ego. There is no such thing. Those people who we say have too much ego actually don't have an ego. They're insecure. And insecurity manifests in two extremes. It either manifests in megalomania, control, and somebody who, you know, constantly wants to talk about how great they are, and, you know, like, sorry, I have to. When asked what he was thankful for, Donald Trump was thankful for his amazing performance as president. I mean, come on. The guy just, I mean, that lack of humility, there's definitely some insecurity issues there. And the other extreme of insecurity is becoming, you know, um, becoming a footstool for other people and letting people walk all over you. But they come from the same root of insecurity. When you are secure in yourself, there is no such thing as too much ego. There's just the self, the empowered self. Without it, we can't function. We incarnated into this life in order to be able to have an identity and know what it's like to be a single identity in this multiverse, in this infinity. It's the whole reason we came here. So, Isa is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. What's the next rune? Let's take a look at the second 8. Okay, so Yera comes from the word for year, and we pronounce it this way again. Yera, the J-G sound is very fluid in Germanic languages. It represents the year. This is how we pronounce it now in modern English. Year. But it also is similar to this word here. Gear. All you do is you take the Y sound, turn it to a G, and you have gear instead of year. And what does the Yera rune look exactly like to you? It looks like a gear, interlocking gear as they turn, right? So it represents that. This is why I call it the rune of cooperation, the rune of relationship. It does represent the year as the year is turning, how the different seasons interlock with each other and turn to create. And so, at the end of the year, you've created something, you've worked towards something, you've built something. But this is why I call it the rune of cooperation, because this is what a relationship is. Now, we could talk about the challenges of relationships. So here we can say again that Yera is a rune that is challenging, although we seek it out. We seek out that relationship, that connection. But it really is representing, and again, Yera cannot be reversed. You either have a functioning cooperative relationship or you don't. And so we can't have, relationship is relationship. They're interlocking and they're working together, or they're not. So again, but this isn't one that's normally pointed out as a negative rune. So after Yera, what comes after Yera? Yuwaj. I-E-W-A-Z-E. It's not A-waz, it's Yuwaj. And that shape that looks almost like a sawal shape, comes up like this, goes down like this, and comes up like that. It represents the yew tree. So I have a picture of a yew tree here. I did for a while. Do I still have the yew tree picture on here? It doesn't look like it. So the yew tree is a really interesting tree because if you're in a forest of yew trees, it may just be one tree. Because when the branches of the tree come down, they actually go into the ground and become roots for another tree that will pop up. So if you see yew trees next to each other, there's a good chance that one of them has created the roots for the other one. And then it keeps doing that. Yew trees have an interesting thing. They live for a very long time. And the way that they grow is, instead of expanding out like normal trees do, is that the center of the tree will die and it will just continue to create, wood around this hole in the middle, this emptiness in the middle. And this is why yew trees, you can climb inside of them, and there's these, they all that kind of stuff. However, the needles are poisonous. So if you eat them, they can kill you. Animals can't eat them because it'll kill you. They also give off a toxic, hallucinogenic, whatever. When you sit, shamans will sit underneath the yew tree and they'll go into shamanic trance. It's because there's a toxin that's released through the needles in the air. And if you sit in that toxin for a while, it's, that's called a power plant. And it's death, it's poison. It's transformation from life to death, back to life again. And that's again why the branches come up and they go down and then they come up again. And this is what Yuhuaj represents. Yuhuaj is a very challenging rune. It's the most challenging one. And if you look at it, it's smack dab in the middle of the 3 eighths. It's the one that all of the eights revolve around. And if we look at it on the rune tree, the tree of life, when we look at the rune wheel, we see that Yuhuaj is again right there, smack dab in the middle, directly at the end. If the first rune is the beginnings of birth, then the second, then the middle rune, Yuhuaj, in the rune wheel, is death, transformation. So I could get into that. I could go into that for a long time about how, what that means in terms of how the runes are progressing. And we get to this, just like a well-written book or a movie. You get to the really big conflict, that has to be resolved. And it's this, the big crescendo conflict is what we're pushing towards. And so when we get to this spot in the rune wheel in our life, this is when we go through the shamanic initiation from life to death, back to life again. When we figure out who we are, when we destroy that which no longer serves us, or when that which no longer serves us is destroyed. And it can be very challenging. And the more that we hold on to what is changing, the more, extremely difficult and challenging it can be. So, I never sugarcoat anything here, guys. I never do. And I know that that's what sells. If I wanted to make money, I would be giving out cotton candy. I would be, there's a reason why people like, who tout The Secret are so incredibly successful financially. Abraham Hicks. There's a reason why she is so incredibly financially successful. It's because that superficial cotton candy really sells. I won't do that. I'm here to tell you that when you go after, and you can talk to my students who have, when they follow my direction, they see real changes in their life. They see real success coming to them, and they will be the first ones to tell you that it is very challenging, frightening. It's a death. You got to go through it. The only reason that we're here, the only reason that we have chosen to incarnate, is not to pay off karmic debts. It's not to, give glory to God. It's not to do any of those things. The only reason we've come here is because our soul has a desire that it wants fulfilled. And that desire is represented as what gives you joy. It sounds easy. Oh, just do what gives you joy. Well, go try it. Seriously, go ruthlessly and fearlessly go after what gives you joy. You will find that it will be challenging. It's more challenging for some than others. But this is yuhaj. When you go after your joy, you will experience what feels like involuntary transformation. And the more that you hold on to who you were, the more challenging this transformation will become. So of all the runes, if there's one that we could say is a bad rune, be careful of it, it would be this one. But of course it's not. It is absolutely necessary, and without it, we don't grow, we don't evolve. It's the rune of evolution. It is the most auspicious of runes. It does mean conflict. So let's talk about relationships for a moment. Interesting that yuhaj comes right after yera. So once you get into a relationship, you are guaranteed you will have conflict. Guaranteed. Remember years ago, had to have been 20 years ago. I remember there was a girl that I was trying to date. She was a nutcase, and I'm attracted to nutcases. She was a nutcase, and so I wanted her to go to counseling with me and my teacher, who's also a psychologist. I wanted to have couples counseling. And so we were having our couples counseling, and she was complaining about me, saying, I've never been with somebody who was so much work. I forget what she called me. Basically that I was just a pain in the ass to deal with. And she said, I didn't fight with my ex-boyfriend like this. To which my teacher piped up and he said, that's why you're not with him anymore. He sounded just like that too. He gets like that. That's why you're not with him anymore. You never fought with him. Conflict is absolutely necessary. You have to burn through the parts of your narcissism that is preventing you from getting into a deeper connection. So, when I counsel clients, if they come to me as couples, I do couples counseling, by the way, spiritual counseling, if you want that. When they come to me with that and they're talking about their conflict, I'm almost always, telling them this is good. You need this. If you don't have this, you won't grow closer. And of course, nobody likes it. I don't like it. Nobody hates conflict more than me. It's one of the reasons I've been single and by myself the majority of my life. It's just that, the pain in the ass of dealing with somebody's expectations on you and desire. And oh my God. I understand. All right. I could talk about relationships and conflict for a long time because I find it to be very funny. But let's continue. So what's after yuhaj? Perthro, the lot cup. And it's shaped like a gambling cup, sideways. So this is a really interesting one. Now, I said earlier that you have to know the meaning of the word in order to understand the rune. Perthro, from my research, which again I don't know, and I'm going to bring this up. I don't know everything there is to know about everything, but according to my research, what I found is that this may be such an old Germanic word that it's fallen out of understanding, even during the time of the rune poems. When they wrote the rune poems, I don't think they even knew what the word meant. It was just a leftover rune word, perthro. but it is the lot cup. And it's, you've got your dice in here, and you shake up your dice and you put it down. And according to Tacitus, the Roman historian, the pre-Christian Germanic tribes were very fond of gambling. By the way, as a side note, at least maybe not in every Hindu tradition, but I was told that there are only 3 sins that you cannot work off in this lifetime. First one is murdering your teacher. Second one is rape. And the third one is gambling. So I said that to one of my students. He got so upset. He left me. He stopped working with me. Didn't matter. I kept saying to him, I'm just telling you what they said. I'm not telling you to stop gambling. If you want to gamble, go ahead. I don't care. He got so upset that I said that. Obviously, he had a problem. The Germanic people were so, according to Tacitus. Now, again, Tacitus is bringing this fairy tale back to Rome so that the Roman elite will feel justified, and the Roman people will feel justified in financing a war against them. So this would have been a talking point for them to say, oh, they're debauched, they don't have any discipline. Yes, they're fierce warriors, but they're very emotional and very irrational, and they're prone to gambling. So much so that, according to Tacitus, that if they ran out of whatever they were gambling, whatever they were using to gamble with, they would gamble with their life. Have you ever heard that term? Gamble with your life? They would gamble with their life, meaning that if they lost, then they would become the indentured servant or the slave of whoever they were gambling with. Now, according to Tacitus, the Germanic people did not have slaves per se. They only had indentured servants. So people who would become your indentured servant for a period of time, which is, akin to slavery, I guess. But the honor code was so strong that if somebody was gambling and they gambled with their life and they lost, the dishonor of not following through with that debt was worse than being an indentured servant for a year or 5 years or whatever, whoever knows how long it was. So Perthro represents that we are gambling all of the time. This is what weird is. Weird is made up of 3 strands. The past, which is origins. The present, which is the ever unfolding now. And the future, which has not happened yet. There is no past. There's only the karma, the debt of past thoughts and actions and deeds, which has created the present moment. We weave the present moment based on our reactions to what is around us, as well as what we are, the actions that we take to propel us forward. If you do nothing, then past actions and other people's past actions will wrap you up and completely take your life away. So when we're talking about the present moment, every thought, every belief, every assumption, I use this as an example because so many people come to my channel with this. If you invest in the belief that you are a slave, that you are trapped, that there are beings of light who lie to you and force you to reincarnate so they can steal your power from you, that act of indulging in that belief creates a past, which then will create a debt, which is your future, which means that you will create a slavery mindset. You will create poverty and challenges. You will create that because that is the debt that must be paid. If you change that, which is why, when people comment on my channel, as they do, on my Exit the Matrix videos, and they comment about, I don't know what I'm talking about, and, I'm blind, and, blah, blah, blah. And they give me all these reasons why we are all prisoners. And I don't directly try and argue with them, because that's, number one, that's not going to get me anywhere. They have an emotional attachment to this belief. So instead, what I say is, do you want to change that? Most people sidestep that, but, really, if you can get somebody to answer that, the question is, is that the universe you want to live in? Or do you want to live in a universe where you are free? Which universe would you rather live in? And that changes, my hope is that that'll change thinking, because just trying to argue back and forth about whether or not we're trapped is a waste of time, because obviously they are trapped. And they are obviously, from my perspective, continuing to, get wrapped up in the yarn ball and stay trapped. It's like, this is what boa constrictors do. The snakes that are constrictors, they're just muscle. And, if this is, an animal, squeezes around the animal. And every time the animal struggles, it squeezes tighter. And it waits for you to exhale, because, you need to breathe. And so you can't inhale. So your instinct is to exhale so that you can breathe again. But once you exhale, it just squeezes tight. It just keeps doing that until, the person suffocates, because they just simply can't inhale. There's no room left to do it. This is what jiu-jitsu is all about. I'm not a jiu-jitsu expert, but I have a friend of mine who is. And I was talking about this yesterday. Jiu-jitsu is all about waiting for your opponent to overextend. So if you've got them all wrapped up, you're waiting for that, and that person is, this is, if you watch MMA, why it's a chess match and why they're on the ground seemingly doing nothing, sometimes for 10 or 20 minutes. It's because they're waiting for the other person to overextend themselves, and then they're going to capitalize on that. At the same time, they're trying to see where they can extend themselves without getting themselves into trouble. And they're, it's one of those things. But, as I said yesterday, the same example, when my friend came at me, I just simply didn't resist him. I just went with it, and just, kind of like a rubber man. I didn't give him anything to capitalize on, and he ended up behind me asking what the hell I did. So the point is, I didn't do anything. I didn't give you anything. This is what Aikido is about. The reason why Aikido practices with people making these big moves, like this, and then you grab the guy's hand and you flip him over backwards. The reason why that doesn't work in street fights is because that's based off of the kind of fighting that happens on battlefields when somebody's got a sword or a battle axe and they make these big moves, and it's a gamble, because if you hit somebody with your axe with these big moves, it means it's going to crack his head open, it's all over. But he's overextended himself and his energy's gone, then you take that energy and you use it against him. So this is why in the Tao Te Ching it says things like, if you don't, I'm paraphrasing, but if you don't resist, then you don't have anything to, you don't have any weaknesses to attack. So this is parthro. Parthro is having to do with that when parthro is reversed, it means that the job, the relationship has come to a karmic end, and there's no amount of effort you can put into it to make it work. Anyway, I'm sort of kind of running out of steam on parthro, so let's keep going. So what happens after parthro? That is listed as alges. I don't like that. I prefer elchaj, because it is the elk. Elchaj. El-Hajj is a weapon. Before, in Ice Age times, if you had an elk, and it was used in other times as well, it was a very, very deadly weapon. Those three-pronged elk horns, and if you get it set up and you hold on to it, you've got a pretty, you got it sticking out here, you got a pretty nasty weapon. And it's a weapon against energetic negativity. So the El-Hajj rune represents the empowerment of life force energy that surrounds the shaman. It's the shaman with his hands up, channeling heaven and earth. And when he's channeling heaven and earth, that energy is radiating outside of him, not only for himself, but for the whole tribe. He is the conduit through which that protective life force energy comes around. And it's used to block things like curses and black magic and negativity. And it's a weapon. It's a very, very potent weapon. So when this comes up, this represents life force energy. Hang on one second here. Am I seeing this right? Yes. So it's representing that. And this can be reversed. And so this represents when we are not, number one, when we're not in our own integrity. Your integrity is when you are taking actions that you know you need to take, when you're acting in fearlessness. For instance, the reason why doing things like stealing is a lack of integrity. Integrity means holding you together, like the beams, the steel girders of a building is integrity. It holds the building up. You get rid of those steel girders, just like in 9/11, then the building will come crashing down in on itself. No integrity. The reason why things like stealing destroys your integrity is because, number one, you're operating from a place of fear. You do not believe that the universe can give you the resources that you need, whereas the shaman who has opened himself to the powers of heaven and earth, he is completely connected and is believing that the universe provides, and the universe fills him with this energy. He is filled with his integrity. So when you steal, you don't think the universe will give you what you need, which means you don't trust, which means that you're a victim. Your energy, your life force energy dissipates, which is El-Hajj reversed, and then you do things that are outside of your integrity. Outside of your integrity is like, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm afraid or because I'm greedy. You don't have enough energy. Life force energy, this is why Qigong is so important. When you do Qigong, you feel empowered. In fact, I'm going to play this for you now since we're on the El-Hajj rune. I'm starting a new advertising campaign, which I will soon really put into full swing here. But here's the, one of the trailers that I'm playing around with for Celestial Qigong, which I'm going to be advertising. What first caught my attention about Celestial Qigong was how incredibly simple and easy to do the moves were. My teachers taught me that the most advanced high-level energy work was always incredibly simple. I have been practicing and teaching Celestial Qigong for over 25 years, and listen, I could tell you what the benefits have been for me, but why don't I let you hear it from some of my students, average people just like you, who have been practicing this ancient and transformative energy practice that I call Celestial Qigong.
Hi, my name is Antonia, and I want to start with emphasizing that I'm not being paid for this testimony. I felt the benefits of it after my first session. But what really blew my mind was how powerful this practice is. Was one night when I was really sick, I caught a flu. I couldn't breathe, I was tired, I was fatigued, my bones were hurting. And after I was finished with my clothes down, the sickness was gone. I was no longer feeling tired or sick or fatigued. My bones weren't hurting anymore. I could breathe. I was energized and super happy, and it was like magic. It really was.
Hello, I'm Greg. I wanted to talk about celestial qigong and what it has done for me. And the first time I did it, and I think after about 3 or 4 movements, I remember this look on my face going, whoa, I'm feeling a lot of energy here. Wow, this is amazing. And I couldn't believe these simple movements could bring out so much energy within the body. I remember once I started doing qigong, and I would go into doing meditations and also dreams. It really helped me to start having visions. I mean, I'm talking about actual visions right behind my closed eyelids. And it's just really amazing what it's done for me. It's helped me to really pursue my soul's greatest joy.
Hi, I wanted to make a quick video of a testimony of my experiences with Celestial Qigong, which have been nothing short of miraculous and amazing. It is a peace, a union, the ability to do the Qigong with my medicine wheel and manifest what I want, that I am in true total control of my life.
Hello, my name is Maclovia. I have been practicing Celestial Qigong for about 6 months now. I received it as a gift, and I originally asked for it because I was having depression. And the things that I can say are it has connected me to my higher self. My 9-year-old does it with me, and he says every night, every time we do it, Mom, Qigong was good tonight. And I wait for that, and I love that, and would recommend it to anyone.
Hi, my name is Lucian, and today I will tell you of my experience of Celestial Qigong. Every night, me and my mom do it. It's like a protection spell.
I'm just finding that out. That's cool.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Michael William Denny, for letting my mom show me this, and you showing me this. This has really been good for me. Thank you.
What first caught my attention about so the point I wanted to make with that was you can see that it's doing different things for different people based on aligning them with their integrity. I didn't give all of them, but at least 2 or 3 of them said the same thing in terms of it helped them determine what it is that they wanted in life, to go after what made them happy, which is your soul. And so life force energy, and just allowing life force energy to flow through you, puts you in that integrity. The integrity to be able to allow and to manifest and all that good stuff. So that's connected to the Ehwaj rune, the El-Khaj rune. And then the last one in the second 8, last one in the second 8 is the Sawol rune. They've got it listed as Sowilo on that. But Sawol is this word right here. And Sawol is nothing more than the Old English pronunciation of the modern word soul. And you can see where the spelling came from. Sawol, Sowul, Sowilo. But it means the soul. It also means the sun. The sun is your soul. So what we're saying here is that the transformation that comes through the second 8, the mental, psychological, and emotional transformation, that is how we connect to our soul. So, yesterday I forget which rune I was talking about. I was talking about the Thurisaj rune, and that even though you can chant any of the runes at any point, I'm not saying you can't do them and you won't have benefit from them. But one of the biggest issues we have in modern Western society is that we have no boundaries. Our boundaries are all screwed up. It's one of the it's something I deal with every single client I deal with. At some point, we're going to start talking about their boundaries. And this is what Thurisaj is, because it's Thor who creates the boundaries between the Thursas and the humans. That's his main function in terms of that rune. He is the god of boundaries. And so in terms of getting to the soul, people want to be spiritual. It's not possible to have a spiritual life if you have not dealt with your emotional and psychological issues. When people work with me, sometimes they will, into the working of it at some point, I don't know if they, a couple of people have said this, and I don't know if they mean it in a positive or a negative way. Either way, I don't care. But they've said, I didn't realize we were going to be doing all this psychotherapy. Well, there's no way to get to the spiritual root of anything without being able to look at yourself. And we have to heal these things. Originally, the shaman was a physician, was the spiritual practitioner, the priest, and was a warrior perhaps, but was also a psychologist. And these were all wrapped up together. Spirituality, philosophy, psychology, these are all in together. So if you want to get to the soul, the gateway to that is you have got to look at your psychological issues. Your psychological issues will always be associated with perthro, your karma, your orlog, your past. The dysfunction that happens on an emotional level is always a result of some choice that you made internally. Maybe it was done in a past life, maybe it was done in childhood, and maybe for very good reasons. Maybe you went through some horrific life scenarios, trauma, that forced you to, make some choices and some decisions and adopt some beliefs and some attitudes in order to protect yourself. But whenever those choices take you away from the fullness of your soul, it's going to create some dysfunction. That's okay. That's why we're here, because that's how we grow, to come back to ourselves. And when we come back to ourselves, we will be fuller and more empowered than we were before. So to get to the soul, you have to go through all of that emotional and psychological transformation. So that's the second 8. I think we do have some questions here. Before I go on a break, let's see if I need to make a... Do I need to make just basically, please try to focus on just asking questions. I'm not interested in anything else. No dialogue, no opinions. Takes time away from answering the questions. So I will take a short break, and I'll be back in a couple minutes. And then I've got some interesting stuff here for you. There's a guy who connected with me who apparently has been doing some very similar work in terms of the runes, which I didn't think anybody else was doing. So I'll share that with you when we come back. All right, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Alrighty, we're back. Okay, so I was going to share with you before I go any further and look at questions, which I will do. There was a guy who contacted me, and of course I get a lot of people contacting me, but this one was interesting. I think his name was Bob Blometti. Yeah, Robert Blometti. And he said that he saw something in one of my books that said in Advanced Rune Shamanism, where I was talking about the rune wheel over here. So take a look at my rune wheel here. Whoa, what is that? No, we're not doing that. Go away. The rune wheel here. And I said something to the effect of that I haven't seen any other rune teachers use this 8-sided rune configuration to teach. So this guy sends me a couple of JPEGs that he's been using apparently since 1980 something or other. He's been teaching this a lot. And so here's his rune wheel. A lot of similarities. I mean, the main things are the same: the placement of the runes and the where each of the worlds are placed. I mean, there's some other things. He's got Odin, Vili, and Ve in a different configuration than I do. But he, in case you're interested, I mean, he's got his own website and all that. And so I will let you know. Let's see, what is that? How do you spell that? I'll give you his website if you want to go check him out. If you want to train with him, be my guest. Let's see, where do I need to go here? I need to go over here. His website is vrilology.com. I don't know what that means, but I think it has something to do with life force energy. Anyway, I don't know enough about his thing to say what it is or what it isn't, but if you want to go check him out, he's got a couple of different websites there. And then he's got this other thing. Let me see. I haven't looked at this, so we're going to be looking at this together, having to do with the runes. Let's take a look and see what he has to say about it. Well, that would take a very long time for us to look at. So if you want to go back when it's archived and pause it, if you want to look at that, go ahead. Anyway, that's his thing, and he contacted me just to let me know that I wasn't alone in my understanding of the rune placement on the world tree. So I found that fairly interesting. All right, let's get to the questions here. All right, Bill C. Question. I will be hunting soon. Is there a deity I should pray to, a good hunt, and a proper ritual after a successful hunt? I'm not a hunter, so I wouldn't even know what to say. It's just not my thing. So I'm sure there is, I mean, I'd be pulling stuff out of my ass if I started throwing deities at you, but I'm not going to disrespect you like that. If I don't know something, I don't know. So I don't know what would be the best deity to pray to for you. Bill C. Question. I'm a new father. Congratulations. From your experience growing up, what are some of the most important things for creating well-formed boundaries or things you wished for in parents? Well, the main job of a parent, in my estimation, is to be a mirror with no agendas. The way a child is able to be self-sufficient and successful in life is when they have built within them this mirror that mirrors back to them their true essence. Not just, you're a good boy, I believe in you. There's nothing wrong with that. It has to be more than that. And less than that at the same time. Whenever you look at the picture of the Madonna and Christ, where Mother Mary is staring down at the baby Jesus, although of course I'm not a Christian. But that symbol is extremely important. It represents the true mother. The true mother has no agenda and is absorbed in the essence of the child and sees the child for who they are, not what they want the child to be. And so as the child is looking up in the eyes of the mother, it sees reflect back to itself its true self. So that comes down to this teaching of when you know what your true joy is, go after it, and then the universe will support you. This is what I'm saying. So as a parent, that's what I would say is, be aware of when you are imposing your agendas onto your child. Are you going to impose your religion on them? Are you going to impose your values? And how much of your values that your parents instilled in you that weren't necessarily yours, are you going to turn around and, impose on them? So that's, the biggest thing. The biggest thing that I would say is if you really want to have a healthy child, support them in being themselves, whatever that is, even if you don't get it or you don't like it. I've talked about this numerous times, but I'll share again. American Idol is a really great way to learn how parents give and reflect back to their children. In American Idol, there's always the one really brilliant genius musician whose mother's an alcoholic, and so nobody's there supporting him or her, and they're singing their heart out, and they're amazing because of the trauma they've been through. They have this reservoir of emotion that they tap into, and it makes everybody tear up. But when it comes time to win, they lose. They end up coming in second or third, and the judges are always saying, I really wanted it to be you, but that last performance, you forgot that whole stanza, or you just weren't there. And it's because they don't have within them that reflective energy that says, we support you being who you are. Whereas maybe the mediocre, they're plenty good singers, but they're not the genius singers, but they win. And you'll see in the audience, mom and dad, sister, brother, uncle, and they all have the big, go Johnny, we love you. That shows that from the beginning, Johnny wanted to be a singer, and they went, oh, that's what he wants to do. Good for you. You can do it. We support you. This is the biggest thing. It's not so much that you have to laud praise on your child. It's that you reflect back to them encouragement for them being who they truly are without your agenda. If you're able to do that, then you will create that boundary. Well, they will be then further empowered, and their own integrity will light the way for their life, and they won't need you anymore, which is the whole idea. Okay, Crone Woman Walking gives me $2. Thank you. Jedi Black Knight question, can non-European names such as Sanskrit names be converted into rune spellings? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're going to find that a lot of them are very similar. Here's one. The word Raja, right, means king, right? But when we break it down into runes, Raido, Ansus, Yera, Ansus. That first syllable of Ra is Raito, which is what must the king do? The king must follow the true law. He must follow the true path. He must follow the Raito. He must follow, Raito represents the track that the sun follows every day. It has to follow that track, or the whole universe comes apart. The sun, which is the king must follow the truth. He must follow the divine law. He must follow the path, that's the law. He must do it. So in that first syllable of Ra, you have Raito and you have Raja. So if you do that with Sanskrit words and you study them, you're going to find out what those words really mean from one syllable to the next. So that's just one example I just pulled out of my rear end. I could probably find a much better one if I tried, but there you go. And you ask, is there any process you follow to bring them to life? Well, this is the thing about mantra. They're already brought to life. Syllables have inerrant power. And they are not arbitrary. It seems like they are, but they're not. So all you have to do is just study them and sort of unpack them. And when you surgically unpack the word by looking one syllable at a time, then you will, I guess you will bring them to life, but it's more like you unpack the energy that's already within them. Good question. Jowie Blazer 33 question. This is a random question I had. Quote, when Christian pastors are people allowed to perform an exorcism to someone possessed, unquote, why do they use the name of Jesus? Well, Jowie Blazer, I don't know, have you ever been a Christian? I mean, it's just as simple as that's their supreme deity. It's just that simple. In their mythology, Jesus casts out demons. So they use the underlining belief is that they don't have the power in themselves, that the devil is more powerful than them. There's some truth to that because the devil represents your unconscious, your unresolved unconscious issues. And it's true when, just like the runes, when you can't get to the soul until you go through all of the psychological transformation. So we're talking about people who are not psychologically evolved. And so they can't choose for themselves. They think they're making decisions, but all the decisions are being made on the unconscious level based on all of their unresolved issues. So Jesus represents, the highest awareness, and so that's all that's really happening. It's just that simple. It's just their supreme deity. That's all. I mean, it works. I know because I was one of those exorcists when I was deep into Christianity. I performed a lot of exorcisms, and I can tell you that the stuff you see in movies, like the stuff you see in The Exorcist, all that stuff happens. The only stuff that didn't happen was that the head didn't spin around. But other things did happen. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, one person completely transformed in front of me. Not just like transformed, like his face transformed into a different face. I mean, like his skin became as white as plaster. And his eyes became completely red, not bloodshot, but the entire eyeball was just a red burning eye. And right in front of me. So, and it was the name of Jesus that got rid of it. Having said that, I don't know that it was so much the name of Jesus as it was my belief in that, my faith in it's really, you have faith in yourself. And I had no fear, and I was empowered. There were other beings there that I couldn't see that were helping out because the negative entity was looking past me and was in tremendous fear of whatever was standing behind me. So it works. Even though I will spend the rest of my life destroying Christianity if I can, and revealing the falseness of that religion, it doesn't change the fact that, when people are honestly connected to their spiritual essence, regardless of what religion they use to do it in, that's why I'm not prejudiced against anybody. I'm not prejudiced against Christians. I'm not prejudiced against Muslims. I can talk about the destructiveness of both of those religions. And especially if you ask me, I will be more than happy to reveal it to you and why it's not helpful and why it ends up being destructive. But I'm not prejudiced against anybody for anything that they do. We all have, and I would be a hypocrite. I was a really full-fledged, hardcore, born-again Christian. I'm not anymore. Jason Guerrero, question. I would like to experience all of them, I'm assuming meaning the runes, in hopes that they will propel me forward in every conceivable way. Don't hold back. I want to experience all of them so they will help me in every conceivable way. Good for you. Do you have any suggested step-by-step guides for working with them? Yeah, I've got 3 books out there. 3 rune books. Go on to Michael, where is it? Go on to, is that there? Yeah, the 4th one down, michaelwilliamdenny.com. Go on there and read my rune books. I talk a lot about what you can do. I mean, I have to address I want them to propel me forward in every conceivable way. I applaud that. And at the same time, I hear a desperation. The desperation isn't helping you. Work with one rune. One rune is connected to all of them. Work with it in whatever way you can. Chant it, draw it, meditate on it. People ask me, what is the best practice? The best practice is whichever one you put your effort into. That's the best one. So, I mean, I acknowledge you wanting to get the most out of the runes, but, acknowledge the desperation within you. That's not helping you. Start with one thing. This is why when you go and train with somebody, they start with the basics. If you want to become a singer, they start talking about how to breathe. If you want to practice martial arts, they also talk to you about how to breathe. They talk to you about, how to stand. It's just without those basics, nothing means anything. So don't go overboard trying to do everything all at once. Do what is in front of you. You can use my books. Go to this other guy's website. Maybe he's got something that'll be helpful for you. Jason Guerrero says, perhaps in your books. Yes, I would recommend reading all 3 of my rune books. They're really inexpensive. It's a book. Books are cheap. Hell of a lot cheaper than working with me. Jason Guerrero. Okay, sorry. Mickey Morgan. All right, so Mickey Morgan, welcome to the channel. Please, if you have a question, I will entertain your question. This is what I'm here to do. Please write the word question and then have a well thought out question, and I'll answer you. Other than that, I ask that you refrain from anything other than asking a question. So I see some question marks here. All right, so I'm going to read the question, and then I'll address this. Mickey Morgan says, I have a set of runes, I'm assuming. I have a set that looks different with 22 runes and 2 blank ones. There's something wrong with that. Which set is used in Robert Graves' White Goddess? So I don't know anything about Robert Graves or White Goddess or anything like that. I use the Elder Futhark, and I recommend that you use that. Blank runes are interesting. I have nothing against them, but the 3 sets of 8, there's something to that. I recommend you get my books as well, and it'll explain all that stuff to you. Ghost in the Machine, question. Why is Yera the only rune that is 2 disconnected? Why is it the only rune that is 2 runes disconnected? I don't know. Like I said, I don't see it as disconnected. I see it as a gear. So in order to be able to see the gear, you have to have the separation so that you can see it. So it looks separated, but I think it's just illustrating that these 2 flow together. They're 2 Kenaj runes. Knowledge. And my knowledge and your knowledge, when we bring it together, we create cooperation. We create a relationship. So I don't know that they're disconnected. I don't see that. And you see it as Yu-Huaj coming together. So, okay. Yeah, listen, maybe that's what it is. Izzy R. Question. May you please explain spiritual relationship counseling? Well, If you are in a relationship and you want counseling, you call me on the phone. Whoops, Raja, I put that in earlier. You call me on the phone at career.thunderwizard.com. Actually, you go there and set up an appointment, and then you'll call me. Talk to me about your relationship, and I will help you find out what you can do to improve that. If you have a partner that you are wanting to improve your relationship with, then one or both of you gets on the phone with me and we talk. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm here to help you guys. My job as a shaman and my job as a counselor is to do one thing. I'm here to help you get what you want. That's it. When I teach people and we go through stuff, and over time, what happens is sometimes, pretty much all the, at some point, definitely it will happen. Students get resistant and they want to fight with me about one thing or another. And at some point, you'll hear me say, "I'm just here to help you get what you want. You told me 3 times ago you wanted this, that, and the other thing, and now you're telling me something else. I'm just here to help you get what you want." And so that's really what it comes down to. Whatever you guys want in your relationship, I'm here to help you get it. Donna Marie B333. I'm assuming this is a question. I have a chart that lists the 3 8s as belonging to Frey, Hagel, and Tyr. Well, did I teach that? The 3 8s, Frey, Hagel, and Tyr. Hagel is a rune. So are they talking about putting deities to, so have they made a deity out of hail? I don't know. I don't teach that. So again, I know you know this. I don't mean this, in a harsh criticism, but it doesn't serve you to ask me about other teachers because I don't know where they're coming from. And that puts me in a position of, having to potentially badmouth them. So that's not, if that came from me, tell me where I said that and I'll try to understand why I said that. You say, would it be okay to separate these and chant in their wheel directions? I don't understand your question. I have a chart that lists 3 8s as belonging to Frey, Hagel, and Tyr. Would it be okay to separate these and chant in their wheel directions? I don't understand your question. Sorry. If I understood it better, I could answer it, but I don't understand it. Let's see, vrilology.com. Well, let me see. It loaded for me. Maybe I didn't. Oh, it's .org. Sorry. Here's the guy's website. It's vrilology.org, not vrilology.com. You're going to find a lot of stuff on there that's very different from what I teach, just to let you know that. I found it interesting that we converged in this one area, but there's a lot of stuff I don't think we jive on, and he's aware of that as well. John Burnham, question: have you seen the video of the guy who reframed the gears on his bike to work backwards? No, I haven't seen that. Training the brain to work backwards as well. Any similarity? I don't know. I'd have to see it. It sounds interesting. It's not really a question, though, John. You keep running into this. You're not really asking me a question. You're writing the word question so that you can give a really cool statement that you want me to read and other people will know. Not really a question there. An honest question is, I need to know something, and I think you might know it. Hey, Mike, can you help me with this? I don't understand it. You're not asking me that. I'd prefer you didn't do that on here. Okay? This isn't a free-for-all. It's a question and answer. John, it just makes me want to ask, have you read my books? Are you one of my students? Why do you come on to the channel? Do you come on the channel because you like discussions? Or are you somebody who follows the Thunder Wizard path? Just talking out loud Cosmo Joe thinks it's a neo-Nazi cult. This website from this guy. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Aries, if you need to write a question, make sure I see it as a question. I see a question mark there, so I'm assuming you're asking me a question. Hello there. I am a targeted individual. That is an assumption. I don't know that. I don't know if you're targeted or if you're projecting that. As you can tell, I have some strong beliefs about that. Why are you so important that people need to target you? Maybe you are, I don't know, but most of the time when people think they're targeted, they're not. That's their internal issues. They feel like a victim. I don't know. I go far enough back into your childhood, I'm going to find something. And then they believe that they're targeted. It's a way of avoiding your true path, which is the whole point. Anyway, let me finish your question. Hello there, I'm a targeted individual and I want to know how to remove spirit attachment from my aura field. Go onto my channel. If you don't know how to do it, please go and get on, either learn how to search within a channel. I don't know how to do it on anything other than a desktop. So get to a desktop computer. Go to my YouTube channel, which is thunderwizard.com, and .com is spelled D-O-T-C-O-M. Go to thunderwizard.com and go down to where my name is and click on the little magnifying glass, and another search bar will come up, and write in demon possession. Find out what I teach about that. So again, I'm going to say to you, as I say to a lot of people, put some time and effort into watching my videos, reading my books, know what it is that I teach, because I've talked about this at length. Bottom line is that no spirit can attach itself to you unless you unconsciously invite it. So even if I were to give you some ritual or some rune or something to get rid of this spirit attachment, it wouldn't solve the problem and it would happen again. It's the exact same scenario that happens with people who get into abusive relationships. I watched this. I've seen this happen. I watched it with my own eyes as a kid. This woman got thrown out of a moving car. And we all stopped and got out. We're teenagers. We all get out and we go pick her up to try and help her. The guy turns around and comes back, threatens to beat us all up until some other older guy came in and got in his face. And then we all stood there and looked at the woman because he was saying to her, get back in the car. And we were saying to her, you don't have to get back in the car with him. You can come with him. You can come with us. We'll take you to the cops. We'll take you to the hospital. We'll take you wherever you need to go. Don't get back in the car with that guy. Guess what she did? She got back in the car with that guy. And at that point, it's like, you know, I feel for her and I know she's got whatever her issues are, but at that point, there's nobody to blame but her. You know, she's in a destructive relationship and she keeps going back to it. So if you've got a spirit attachment, that you need to take a look at why you've invited that into your life. The bottom line is that there's some pain, some deep-seated emotional, psychological pain that's very deep, that is so intolerable to you that you would rather have a spirit come and cause a bunch of craziness in your life, because that at least isn't as bad as the pain that you feel when you don't have a spirit attachment. I know you don't like hearing this, but that's what I've learned, and this is from years of being an exorcist. So go onto my channel and type in demon possession, and you'll learn all about that. Okay? Yeah, you're taking medicine, you're using Zapper and Orgonite. None of that's going to solve the problem. Problem is inside of you. You solve that. You know, I remember once I just decided, I had something similar, and I just decided, I said, you know what, I don't care. Do whatever the hell you want. I'm done. It disappeared. When you're done, it'll disappear. If you want my help, you can come and get a session from me. I'm typing it in with one hand because I'm lazy. I went surfing today for the first time in a long time, so I'm very burnt out. Career.thunderwizard.com. Go there and get a session with me, and I will talk you through it. But you're going to have to follow through with my directions, which will probably be challenging, and most people would rather have the demon attachment than to do the actual work of getting rid of it. Anyway, we'll see. Good luck to you in whatever it is that you do, and I hope that you're able to solve that problem. All right. Donna Marie 333 question update. The rune sets I told you about bought before my time with you in consult came with this chart. I didn't want to ruin what I am reading in your rune books by using this chart. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think I'm right. You know, the virology guy thinks he's right. Whoever these people are think they're right. And maybe we're all right in our own way. I don't know. But there is a, you know, when you go and train with a teacher is going to say, stop working with other teachers. And it's not because they have, well, at least, you know, if they're a true teacher, it's not because they have an ego issue. It's that, you know, it's just going to distract you. You know, when you go to learn martial arts and you've been training in Shotokan karate, and then you're going to go learn and train in Wing Chun, the Wing Chun guy is going to say, forget everything you think you know about martial arts. Forget everything about, you know, stances and how to kick and how to punch. Just come in, because that's the toughest thing, trying to teach somebody that already knows something. You got to empty your cup. You know, if you want to learn from me, the best way to learn is to forget what other people say. So nothing personal about those people. That's one of the reasons why I don't answer questions about other teachers, is because it's, you know, I don't know them. Maybe they're good, maybe they're not, but maybe we're doing two different things here, and it, you know, I don't want to screw that up for anybody. Just like I wouldn't want somebody doing it to me. So yeah, get rid of that and follow what I teach. And when you feel like you've gained a mastery in what I teach, then put that aside and then go train with somebody else and learn their thing. And then when you're done, you can look at both of them and you can do what I've done and you can merge the two and see which one works. Okay, I think you get what I'm saying. Avalon of Glimmere, please write the word question, otherwise I might miss it. She writes a bunch of question marks. Are we supposed to pay? I don't know. What do you mean, are you supposed to pay? What do you mean by that question? What's the context? Are you supposed to pay your doctor? Yes. Are you supposed to pay your plumber? Yes. Are you supposed to pay the grocer? Yes. Who are you asking about paying? You say, I see people paying money and was just wondering. What do you mean? Paying money to whom for what? This is why I say when you write out a question, please write out a well thought out question. Put verbs and subjects and context, because, you know, as psychic as I am, I have no idea what you're asking me. Okay? All right. Let's see here. All right, so let's take a short break, and I'll come back, and if there are any other questions, I will answer them. Alrighty. Let's check and see if there's any questions. If so, we'll keep going. If not, we'll call it an evening. So people are trying to, or Cosmo Joe is trying to interpret what Avalon of Glim was asking. Maybe you're right, but again, I don't know. Maybe she can tell us what she's asking. I mean, I think she is asking, is she supposed to pay me? So, I mean, you don't have to pay me for this. As if I wanted people to pay to watch this live Q&A, I would make sure that you had to pay to see it. You need to pay if you want to get, you know, any of these products that are up here. And yes, they're products. I'm sorry if that bothers some people. If you want to have a session with me, you got to pay for that. But you don't have to pay to be on here right now, if that's what you're asking. But I do recommend, you know, seriously, put the time and effort into ask a question. You know, if you and I were sitting together, you would ask me a question and you would have no problem putting the subject and the verb and the object so that I knew what you were talking about. And I'm pointing this out because when it comes to this, people either on their phone or whatever, and they're very lazy and they don't put the effort into it. I do require that. People put the effort into it to communicate with me so that I can best help you. It's also good for your spiritual practice. You want to learn spiritually, it takes discipline, it takes time, it takes effort. If you don't have these things, no matter how great the teacher is, they won't be able to help you. All right, so let's see here. Skyclad Faye, question. Hi ever made a connection? I think there was a typo here. Hi ever made a connection with a musical octave and a rune set of 8? Reason I'm asking, I don't know what you're asking me. Sorry. Try again. Donna Lilly, question. Do you suggest working with one rune at a time for a certain period of time? Also, perhaps working with its balance rune? And you're talking about advanced rune shamanism. Do I suggest it? I wouldn't go so far as to say I suggest it. That's how I do things. Maybe I'm a beginner in the runes. And I'm being honest here. You know, maybe I'm a beginner in the runes. The runes are so powerful for me, I don't want to overload myself. I don't, you know, when I've taught the runes, and I teach just one rune at a time, like especially if I teach it on video, you know, and I talk about, like if I were to talk about the Yuhuaj rune and I make a whole video about it, guess what? I get to live for the next, you know, week or two. So for me, working with one is plenty. But that's just me. A lot of people will chant all the runes every morning like, you know, taking vitamin C. That's their spiritual practice. And working with its balance rune, I mean, for me, I work with the balance rune when if I've done a rune reading and a rune comes up, like let's say Ansuj comes up reversed. So let's take a look on the rune wheel and see what its counterbalance is. So the counterbalance for Ansuj is Wunjo. So that means if Ansuj comes up reversed, means a block in communication, a lack of communication, miscommunication. The way to get people communicating is through Wunjo. Wunjo is directly translated as joy, but my experience of Wunjo is that Wunjo is the joy that comes from camaraderie. Not just friendship, which is kind of what Gebo is. It's the love and the warmth that comes from family and friends. So if you're not communicating with somebody, the way to fix that is to find where the joy and the love and the warmth is. And if not, then you got to reach out and create that. If you're wanting to talk to somebody and they're not talking, they don't feel safe, you make them feel loved and you make them feel safe. guess what? They open up and they talk to you. So that's just one example. So what I'm saying by that is you can, again, if you want to learn a rune by working with its opposite, you should definitely do that. I put that there so that when you run into a problem, and like again, communication, Ansu's reversed, ask yourself, how do I fix this? Okay, we've got a lack of communication. Let me look on the rune wheel and see what's opposite it. If you work that opposite rune, it should clear up the problem that you're dealing with. Okay, thank you for the question. Avalon of Glenmere says, I see people to you. I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't know if English is your first language or if there's a problem. I don't know what you're saying. I want to be able to help you, but I don't know what you're saying. You have to write more than that. You have to write enough of a sentence that tells me what it is you're trying to say. We got Ansu's reversed here. Okay. Former Ken Pole. Question, what parts of your path are for skeptics? I have no idea. That never entered my mind. At no point did I think to myself, okay, what part? I don't know. Are you a skeptic or an atheist? All of them. I guess, you've given me some choices here. Runes, astrology, Hul breath. I guess if I were to pick one, and then you have Celestial Qigong, I would do Celestial Qigong because Celestial Qigong requires no belief. You don't have to believe it. In fact, you can be absolutely dead set against its efficacy. But if you follow my directions and do exactly what I tell you to do physically, you will have an experience. So I would say Celestial Qigong if you want to break through that. It had a huge effect on me. What happened with me is that I was a born-again Christian. And then I went through a huge, dark night of the soul where I walked away from Christianity. And that was an incredibly painful... I didn't do it because I thought it was a good idea. When I left Christianity, it wasn't because I didn't believe in it. I still believed in it. It violated my ethics. The idea of an all-powerful God creating human beings and then destroying them or eternally punishing them for simply having the wrong intellectual idea, calling God by the wrong name. That I just couldn't. I couldn't live with that. And it wasn't that I didn't believe. I still believed. I rejected Jehovah and I rejected Jesus because my ethics would not allow me to worship them any longer. And I told it to them. And I said very clearly, I can't worship you. There are people in my lives that are more moral than you. And if you're supposed to be, the Almighty and you can't even live up to basic human decency, then I can't worship you. And it was incredibly frightening and very, very, very painful. And I was sure that I was going to go to hell, the Christian hell. I thought that I was going to be excluded and I would burn in hell. And I said, I don't care. At least I'll have my integrity. Just to let you know, it wasn't again because I thought it was a good idea. In fact, then I had to go through years of deprogramming. When I started doing, where the Celestial Qigong came from was a practice that I was told was called spirit fighting, Taoist spirit fighting. And it was a martial art. It was an extremely effective and lethal martial art. But in order to get the lethal aspect of it, you had to tap into the energy. And you had to be able to direct the energy. And when you did, it was like, man, I've never seen hands so fast in my life, and I've never felt such raw power. I mean, somebody just barely tapping you and, bones and sinew and things exploding. And it's horrible. And I was all about that. I was all about wanting to be the baddest fighter on the planet. wanted to be invincible, and so I wanted that. So in order to get that, I had to start buying into this whole thing about Taoism and energy. And when I was doing the practices, when I got home after, I think it was the first class I took, and there was a posture that they gave me, and I had to get myself in this really difficult posture because my body wasn't used to it. I felt this huge rush of energy come through me that was really stony. And I also felt the presence of something in the room with me. And that was giving me, I could see like pictures in my mind's eye. Somebody was like putting information into me, and it scared the crap out of me. Because I had been taught to believe that any spirit that doesn't confess Jesus Christ as Lord is the devil. And so this is one of the things that Christianity teaches you. When you have a great experience, a spiritual experience, and it's not in church, you feel really guilty. Oh my God, that felt so good, but holy crap, that was the devil. And I had to sit with that, and I had to choose to keep following it, because I had to make the decision to go, I'm not going to listen to that Christian mindset anymore. And it was very difficult, very challenging. So when you hear me badmouth Jesus and you hear me badmouth religion, it isn't because I'm one of these guys who's never believed in it and I'm doing it in a superficial way. The intense feelings that I have against Christianity are coming from what I had to go through when I deprogrammed myself. And this Taoism, this energy path of Taoism, was what really gave me the power to learn that there is, because what was happening is that I started to go into this place of agnosticism. See, here's the thing about agnostics and atheists, and they're not going to like me saying this, and I have a video about it. Agnostics and atheists are unconscious monotheists. Because you can't be an atheist, no God, unless you first believe that there is one God. Because that's how monotheism is. There's either one God or there's nothing. And so, rightly so, for whatever reasons, people decide that Jehovah is a nutbag and does not deserve to be worshipped, but they still unconsciously believe that he is running the universe. And so the way that they get him back is by choosing not to believe in him. I don't believe in you, but you do. Same with Satanists. Satanists are closet Christians. They are, closet isn't the right word, they're unconscious Christians. They don't like Christianity for whatever reason. And so in order to try and fight off Jehovah and Jesus, they embrace the devil. But there is no devil if you don't first accept the assumptions that come with Christianity. If you don't accept the assumptions of Christianity, there's no need for a devil, and then he doesn't exist. So people who worship Satan because they're closet Christians. They're unconscious Christians. They're in conflict with themselves. Same thing with agnostics and atheists. They unconsciously believe in God, they just don't like it. And so the way they deal with that is by saying they don't believe in it or I don't know. You never see agnostics or atheists in polytheistic shamanic cultures. They may have different ideas about what the gods are or about what energy is or about what nature is, but they don't deny that it's there, and they don't regret or they don't try and stop you from having that. No, you believe in such and such God? Oh, that's your path. Good for you. I believe in so and so, or I just believe in the Force. There's an acceptance because there's an understanding from the pre-Christian polytheism, which is, by the way, not paganism or heathenism. Paganism and heathenism, for the most part, is just, again, the Christian mindset trying to, insert itself into pre-Christian thinking, and it doesn't work. I'm generalizing, but that's my experience. Pre-Christian polytheism is a holographic mindset. When you look at a crystal, like I share this a lot. My mom had these fake crystal chandeliers, and she would take them off and polish them, and I would, as a kid, I would look at them. And I'd look through one of the facets, and through that I could see this rainbow of a bunch of other facets, and through the facets I could see the room, whatever was in the room. So I could see everything. If I looked in that one, I could see, you know what I mean? And I'd turn around and I'd look through a different facet, and it would look different, but it would still be the whole room. This is polytheism. Polytheism is, if you're worshiping Odin, you're looking through one of the facets. And through Odin's eyes, or Odin's eye, you can see all the other gods. Now you pick up, you turn it around, you look through Frey. Through Frey, you can see all the other gods. This is polytheism. So if you're an agnostic or an atheist or a skeptic, listen, I don't judge you for that. I'm just suggesting to you to acknowledge that you have an unconscious belief in probably Jehovah that you're struggling with. And when you can rectify that within yourself, then you won't have to be a skeptic anymore. Because you're a skeptic because you're trying to protect yourself from falsehood. It's the whole point of being a skeptic. The whole point of being a skeptic is to be skeptical because you don't want to be handed a load of bullshit, and you don't want to be conned into something that's going to be destructive to you. You're trying to protect yourself so you don't trust anything. I get it. When you get to the point where you are comfortable with yourself, you won't need to be a skeptic anymore. In fact, you can be in a position of honestly knowing and not knowing at the same time. You go to India and you ask a Hindu, is there only one God? They will say, yeah, there's only one God. You say, are there many gods? Yeah, there's many gods. Is Ganesha real? Oh, definitely. Ganesha is very real. Is Ganesha just a symbol? Yeah, Ganesha is just a symbol. And they don't have a problem with any of it. To the Western monotheist mind, this is nonsense because this person hasn't made a choice. Either he exists or he doesn't. This is the problem with the New Testament. Problem with the New Testament is that once we entered into the New Testament tried to present itself, because this is what Christianity needed at that time. Christianity tried to present itself as a historically accurate story. And once you've done that, now you've blocked yourself into this black and white. It either is or it isn't. And that's the problem. If Christianity had stayed a Gnostic belief system where Jesus was just a symbol, whether or not, I think Gnosticism comes out of a victim mentality. I don't think it's an effective spiritual path. But if they had stayed with that, then they wouldn't have any problems, and you wouldn't have to then prove whether or not Jesus rose from the dead or any of that other stuff that Christians have to try and do. It would just be a symbolic teaching, but then everybody would be free to buy into whatever symbolic teaching they wanted. But as soon as you say this is the truth, the one truth and the only truth, and it's factually true, then you have to pick and choose. This is what skepticism, agnosticism, atheism, it's all based in. So I'm encouraging you to meditate on, really fearlessly facing your unconscious beliefs. And unconsciously, you still believe Jehovah is real. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to be a skeptic. Because otherwise, you look at it, you talk about Jesus to somebody from a shamanic perspective, they're going to go, none of that makes any sense. I think you're misunderstanding it. They don't give up their religion because your religion is ridiculous. But when we lived in a society when there was only one religion, you only had a choice. You either bought into the religion or you didn't. And then there's people in the middle who try and pick and choose what they like about Jesus. I'll shut up about it after this, but there was a book I read which for a while was really helpful to me when I was going through this deprogramming phase. And it was The Gospel According to Jesus. And it was written by a bunch of religious scholars. I mean, I laugh at it now. It's just so ridiculous now. And they started with the assumption of writing down and taking out from the Gospels what they thought Jesus really said as opposed to what other people falsely attribute to him. And so they have no criteria for this other than what they're feeling. And they take out bits and pieces of Jesus' sayings and they say, I think he said this, but I don't think he said that. It's just so ridiculous. They're still operating from the need to be a Christian. They don't want to be. They don't like it. They don't like the idea of hell and judgment, but they can't let go of it. So they put themselves in the middle. And it's such a people-pleasing mindset. In order to please God, they fix the religion so they make God into being something cute and nice. And Jehovah's an asshole. He is just a destructive, megalomaniac, narcissistic, murderous nutbag. There is nothing redeemable about him. He exists. He is the human ego. It's it. And I don't mean ego in the sense of the runes Esau. I mean the narcissistic, insecure ego. When you worship Jehovah, you are worshiping your own ego. That's why Jehovah says he made man in his own image. It's what all that stuff means. All right. Any more questions? Jason Guerrero question. I've heard you mention him a few times. I don't know who you're talking about. I was wondering if you could speak on any personal experience with Ganesha. Sure, I could, but that would be for an entire 2 hours. So I'm running out of steam. But you don't need me. There's plenty of people who there's no shortage of information about Ganesha out there. But maybe someday. Thank you for the question. Skyclad Faye, I forgot a comma after the hi. So you mean, have you ever? You're trying to ask me. Have you ever made a connection between a musical octave and singing the runes? I haven't. But I have nothing against it. It sounds beautiful. Let's see here. What just happened? Sorry, this is why I appreciate it when people don't write anything except questions, because then I have to scroll through all the little sentences. Anyway, that's not gonna go away. Donna Marie B33 question. I think what okay, that's not a question. Yeah. So the answer is no, Donna Marie, no. I have never done that, and I don't talk about something I don't know, so I'm open to hear about it, though. Mad Sweeney's Beer question. Could we give offerings to a particular rune? I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't. That's never entered my mind. I don't treat runes like deities. I treat them like, not that they aren't conscious, they are. I treat them like forces of nature. So you could. I don't have a problem with it. My brain doesn't go there. They're already sort of there waiting to be tapped into. I think the way to tap into them is to chant them. They're syllables. They want to be spoken. They want to be chanted. That's the way to get them to work with you. You know, the offering is the offering of your energy as you chant them over and over again. That's your offering. That's my take. Do what you want. Cosmo Joe question. Are things like the runes, mantras, etc. necessary? Or can one achieve everything they want through cultivating energetically and focused intent? I'm not attracted to tools and symbols. So, Cosmo Joe, you're not really asking me a question. You want me to co-sign your way of doing things. And, you know, the question is it necessary for me? Yeah. Is it necessary for you? I don't know. So, you know, you're asking me this black and white question, and again, it's coming from your insecurity. You know, just be comfortable with you. If you don't want to do that, then don't do it. I only teach what works for me. That's the only thing I know how to do. So I teach mantra, and I teach ritual, and I teach energy work. All of those things are necessary for me and have helped me, so I want to give it away to others. Doesn't work for you, then, you know, it's like they say in 12-step work, you know, take what works for you and throw out the rest. Okay. Passing Arcturus question. Do you have any experience with Gaia? Again, stick to what I teach. Makes me want to ask you all kinds of questions. Are you reading my books? Are you watching my videos? Or are you just a YouTube person who just likes to go onto YouTube channels? That's another tradition. And I haven't taught it. It's not that I don't teach other traditions. I do. But I've never taught it. So the answer is no. And then you go on to say, I will define Gaia as the planetary intelligence. So it's not really a question. You're not really asking me a question about something I know that you want my help with. You're sort of trying to, you know what I mean? So the short answer is no. I don't have any experience with that, and I can't talk about your definition about something I don't know anything about, other than that I know that Gaia is the Latin earth goddess. Alyssa Sullivan question. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how to use runes, or where/how to journey along the world tree to discover the source of an unknown pain one has in the spine at the throat chakra. Do I have any thoughts about how to use runes to travel along the world tree to find an unknown pain? So, do I have any thoughts about it? My thoughts are that there might be some technique that would be helpful for you, but my first response to you is you need to get some counseling with me. Because if there is pain at the source, it's an unknown pain. I'm assuming you're talking about yourself. If you're talking about somebody else, then you have no business talking to me about somebody else. They need to be asking for their own sake. Then I can help them. So if we're talking about you, that you have an unknown pain that you don't know the source of, that is in the spine at the throat chakra. So first off, that's an assumption. You're assuming that it's your throat chakra, and you're correlating it. So there's a bunch of assumptions in there. So my idea about pain is physical pain. First off, I don't know, is there something structurally wrong with you? My first suggestion would be to go to a doctor and get x-rayed or get an MRI to see if there's something wrong back there. If that's not the case, and it still could be the case even if there is a structural problem, then my thought is we need to be discussing what you're in conflict with. And maybe chanting a rune will help you find out that conflict. But you are in conflict with yourself. You are angry at something or someone or yourself having to do with your communication, speaking your truth. That needs to be addressed psychologically. So, since we're talking about the psychological runes, I would chant Ansuj, just as a suggestion. But I still think what you really need is to get together with a teacher, because brain surgeons cannot do brain surgery on themselves. Human beings cannot solve their own psychological problems. They need a blank mirror to be able to bounce it back to you. I'm telling you this because I have personal experience in healing myself from pain. Like, I almost went on disability How many years ago was that? 6 years ago, after my divorce, because I was in so much pain. So I have some awareness on what causes that. The bottom line is that there's something that your soul wants to achieve, having to do with the throat chakra, and you are blocking it. You are unconsciously blocking it because in your mind there's somebody you're trying to please. And you are furious with yourself over this conflict, and it is lodged in your neck. And it could turn into something worse if you don't deal with it. So I recommend getting a reading from me or getting a session with me. career.thunderwizard.com, and I can ask you a bunch of questions and we'll find out. Maybe I won't be able to help you, but there's a good chance I might be able to. Not. Question. What's an example of how runes can be dangerous? I never said that. When did I say that runes can be dangerous? I think that, again, I need the context of your question. Are you saying that I said that? And you tell me where I said that, what the context was, and I'll tell you what I meant by that. Are you just coming off the top of your head an idea that you want to ask me this random question? Which, if that's the case, then, where's that coming from? So I need more context in your question to know how to best answer that for you. Okay? Or are you just worried that runes are dangerous? Because I usually don't talk like that. I might have said that, but I normally don't talk like that about the runes. There's something to be respected, play around with them. But I need more information to know what you're asking. Okay, I don't see any more questions here. So I'm going to say bonus nachos and go relax. I went surfing today, so I'm kind of tired and wiped out. So if you want to learn everything that I teach about runes on video, go up here to runecertification.thunderwizard.com. You will find all of my teachings of the runes on video, both paid and free, in one place. And then if you want, you can become certified. We now have one certified rune teacher that I've certified, and for that you go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com if you want to get a rune reading from me and or from Mark, I guess one or the other. If you get one from Mark, it'll save you $100. If you get it from me, I'll charge my normal price, but he charges $100 less than I do. So and he's very good at what he does. So if you want to be a certified rune reader, we got another one nipping at his heels coming up pretty quick. She's going to be on there soon as we finalize some things in her certification. But if you want to be a certified rune reader and have me do what I just did and promote you on the channel, then go to runecertification.thunderwizard.com. If you want a rune reading, go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com. If you want a rune reading, a Vedic astrological reading, and a North Star 9-world astrological reading, all in the same package, go to transformation.thunderwizard.com. And we'll be doing some more breakout ads for Celestial Qigong. So there you go. All right, so there might have been a question on the way out, so let's see here. Question, Not says, I thought you implied it in a previous episode where you talked about why you wouldn't get a rune tattoo. That's different. The runes themselves aren't dangerous. Then you need to, this is why being specific is important. Ask me why getting a rune tattoo is not a good idea. First off, I tell people, if they want to do it, do it. I wouldn't. That's me. Like I said, there are people that'll chant all, 3/8 of the Futhark every morning, like drinking orange juice, and it doesn't harm them in any way. I talk about one rune for an hour, and I have to live the most intense transformative aspects of that rune. Maybe just because I'm a shaman, I don't know. I would never put a rune on my body. I would never. I'd have to live with that. Plus, it comes across so disrespectful and so condescending and so belittling to think that I can contain the power of one rune on my body. For people who are unconscious, like the racists who put swastikas on their body are going to get it so bad, because the swastika, the filfot, is about justice, about it is Thunar, Thor, in action with his lightning bolt, striking the Thyrses who bring exclusion and bigotry and intolerance and slavery. So for somebody who represents all of those negative things to put that on their body, they are asking for Thunar to tear them to pieces. And they're totally unconscious of that. So that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think so highly of myself to think that I don't have any unconscious issues about a rune. And if I'm attracted to a certain rune and I put that on my body, I have no idea when that rune is going to say, oh, you really want to express that? Let's bring up all of the hypocrisy within you concerning that. I don't want to go through that. I don't want it in my next life. Those guys, guaranteed, maybe I'm wrong, I feel absolutely certain that racists who put runes and or swastikas on their body in the next life are going to have to deal with such horrific discrimination, because they're going to have to learn. They're begging the gods to bring that on them. So that's why I don't put runes on my body. I didn't say that the runes were dangerous. What's dangerous is people's unconscious. A rune tattoo is not the rune. The runes aren't meant to be tattoos. Where do you find that in any of the lore? Take such and such rune, tattoo it on the body. You don't see that anywhere. The runes exist outside of that for me to, Plus, I think tattoos are just getting lame. People just get tattoos for the sake of getting them, and they look bad. There's the percentage of people that get tattoos that actually look pretty good is, the rest of the time it just looks like a smudge. Especially like guys who get like spider webs on their neck. What the hell is that about? It looks like you got some fucking smudge on the side of your face. It just looks stupid. And all I see is people wanting to fit in. I'm going to get a tattoo of my whatever. A tattoo of my dog. I'm going to put it on my chest so that when I go to the beach and I take my shirt off and I'm 30 pounds overweight, people will see how cute my dog was. That's why I don't get a rune tattoo. Izzy R. question. Any tips that will help me decide which reading is best to purchase from your Vedic astrology reading or rune reading? It depends on what you want. If you want, I would get the transformation package, transformation.thunderwizard.com. That way you can get everything. Very, very powerful package there. Donna Lilly question. Are there any rune combinations that are helpful in healing PTSD? I don't know about combinations. Again, I use each rune by itself, so I'm sorry I don't have the answer to your question. PTSD is pretty serious. We should talk. I mean, I'm not trying to stop you from finding spiritual techniques that will help you, but if you got PTSD that needs to be healed, you need to be talking to me. Okay, so that we can work through that. I can help you with that. Passing Arcturus question, how much does it cost to be one of your students? Well, this is why I have all of these things up here, including this one. You see the one that says thunderwizard.com? Go there, and you'll find out all the different ways to subscribe and become my student. Okay, including all of the prices. I recommend this. I mean, I put a lot of time and effort in putting all these links up here. Go check out all of my links, you guys. I can't make it any easier. I take time off, and for 2 minutes, there's nothing but links being thrown at you. Go to the links and find out what all this stuff is and see what it is that you want. I appreciate the question. All right, that's it. Nothing else. I don't see anything else. My apologies if I missed a question. My apologies if I misunderstood you. You know, I have to own, I'm really trying to get through my, I jump to conclusions. And sometimes people ask questions and I jump to conclusions and then I have to clean it up later because they'll email me trying to explain what they really meant. And it's, you know, a lot of times is I just, you know, I don't, I need to spend more time. But that's just who I am too. I got rid of a guy last time because he kept on asking me these personal questions like, why do you do this and why do you do that? And I just got rid of him. But to answer his question, that's just who I am. So you just have to accept me with all of my failings and all my faults. And if you want to watch, just accept that that's what I'm going to do every now and then. There you go. All right, there we go. All right, so that's it for me. I will see you guys another time. And I don't know, I guess tomorrow, if I'm around, if I haven't gone surfing and passed out, I will talk about the last 8 of the runes. Okay, talk to you guys later. Well, let's do this one, and then I'll do the end thing. So we'll talk about Celestial Qigong for a couple minutes. Celestial Qigong was how incredibly simple and easy to do the moves were. My teachers taught me that the most advanced high-level energy work was always incredibly simple. I have been practicing and teaching Celestial Qigong for over 25 years, and listen, I could tell you what the benefits have been for me, but why don't I let you hear it from some of my students, average people just like you, who have been practicing this ancient and transformative energy practice that I call Celestial Qigong.
Hi, my name is Antonia, and I want to start with emphasizing that I'm not being paid for this testimony. I felt the benefits of it after my first session. But what really blown my mind was how powerful this practice is. Was one night when I was really sick. I caught a flu. I couldn't breathe. I was tired. I was fatigued. My bones were hurting. And after I was finished with my clothes down, the sickness was gone. I was no longer feeling tired or sick or fatigued. My bones weren't hurting anymore. I could breathe. I was energized and super happy, and it was like magic. It really was.
Hello, I'm Greg. I wanted to talk about Celestial Qigong and what it has done for me. And the first time I did it, and I think after about 3 or 4 movements, I remember this look on my face going, whoa, I'm feeling a lot of energy here. Wow, this is amazing. And I couldn't believe these simple movements could bring out so much energy within the body. I remember once I started doing Qigong, and I would go into doing meditations and also dreams. It really helped me to start having visions. I mean, I'm talking about actual visions right behind my closed eyelids. And it's just really amazing what it's done for me. It's helped me to really pursue my soul's greatest joy.
Hi, I wanted to make a quick video of a testimony of my experiences with Celestial Qigong, which have been nothing short of miraculous and amazing. It is a peace, a union, the ability to do the Qigong with my medicine wheel and manifest what I want, that I am in true total control of my life.
Hello, my name is Maclovia. I have been practicing Celestial Qigong for about 6 months now. I received it as a gift, and I originally asked for it because I was having depression. And the things that I can say are it has connected me to my higher self. My 9-year-old does it with me, and he says every night, every time we do it, "Mom, Qigong was good tonight." And I wait for that, and I love that, and would recommend it to anyone.
Hi, my name is Lucian, and today I will tell you of my experience of Celestial Qigong. Every night, me and my mom do it. It's like a protection spell.
I'm just finding that out. That's cool.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Michael William Denny, for letting my mom show me this, and you showing me this. This has really been good for me. Thank you.